Hello again and welcome. Over the past year I had made a couple of videos where I restored these two old blowtorches. The one on the right, this is made by Clayton Lambert. You can see this blowtorch has a test date of January 4th, 1921. I had made a comment about using this to solder some surface mount parts. Maybe we can find the soldering iron for this at some point and we can try soldering some surface mount with it. So in today's video, that's exactly what we're going to attempt to do with this torch. So let me start out by showing you some of the accessories that you would normally use with a torch like this. This, for example, is a soldering iron. Give you an idea how big this thing is. You can imagine this is just a huge chunk of copper. There were smaller irons, and that's what these hooks were for. So the torch would fit between this hook up here and then rest right across like this, so you'd keep that tip right inside of the flame. I would imagine at the time this was considered a fine tip soldering iron. You can twist this out like so. It's got a very long thread. And here's your heat shield. You can see there's this little pin that fits down inside the hole that's threaded. And here we have a piece of bar solder that was found with them. This was produced by the National Lead Company. You can see where they melted off some of the end. Some time ago in one of the forums somebody had asked about how to calculate heater cartridges. They were specifically asking about soldering irons, so apparently they were going to attempt to make their own. So I tried to make my own soldering iron and I ended up making two different ones. This is the second one that I made. So again, I have a thermocouple that is mounted directly to the tip, and I have a piece of nichrome wire that's wrapped around this, and that's attached to these two wires here. And I'm using a standard paste tip. The handle piece here is a spent 35 Remington. This particular one ran off a lab view, so this would connect to one of my meters, and then the heating element just connected to one of my power supplies. So to do surface mount soldering with this 100-year-old blowtorch, we're going to have to make something custom, something similar to this, and this is what I came up with. So let's just start with the tip. Again, this is a standard paste tip just like before. Again, I said I was going to demonstrate doing surface mount soldering with this torch, and that's the reason for such a fine tip. This fits into a piece of brass. There's a small set screw that we can use to lock it into place. Again, this is fitted into a large piece of copper. Looking at the back side, you can see we've drilled a small hole into the copper, and then this K-type thermocouple fits into that hole. This whole assembly then screws into the end of this ceramic tube. There's a small aluminum heatsink that fits around this, and then this all fits into this old paste handle. And out of the back side we have our thermocouple. We'll plug our thermocouple into a standard handheld meter to read our temperature. Then we'll take our soldering iron. We'll just put this right into the blowtorch's flame. We'll wait for the copper to come up to temperature, and then we can begin our soldering. Again, there's no temperature control, so you have a limited amount of time that you can use this. It would be nice to have a larger chunk of copper, but it's a trade-off between having the weight and being able to position this. Obviously, the more copper we have, the farther this is located away from our hand. Although I haven't actually tried to solder with it yet, this seems to be quite usable. You can tell I have actually heated it up, and I have tried to reflow a few joints. Looks like I can get about 10 solder joints reheated before I have to put this back into the flame. So what I have here is two separate oscillators built onto one piece of perf board. I've gone ahead and I've built up one full oscillator, soldering every component by hand, but on the other one, basically what I've done is I've soldered half of the joints. So there's like 8 or 10 solder joints on here to be made. So what I'd like to do is finish the soldering up on this board using our new custom-made iron and our 100-year-old blowtorch, and then we'll go ahead and test out this circuit board. Of course, we don't want to be running this blowtorch in the lab, so I'll go ahead and set up everything outside on a table, and we can get started. So here we are outside. See, I got the blowtorch. It's going to be our work table. I've gone ahead and added a little bit of Coleman fuel to this. torch head's heating up nicely. So here we have our BM789 out. Set this to degrees F. The first thing we'll do is just see how the heat transfers into this chunk of circuit board. Got some different solder here we can try. All right, looks like it's almost burned down. There, it just went out. Lights right off. You can hear it running. To do this, we're just going to keep the torch set down as low as possible. Let's try heating up our little soldering iron. Personally, I like to solder at about 640 or so degrees Fahrenheit. You see we're up at about 100 right there. See the copper is starting to shine up a little bit. Let's just start out. We're going to be using our heavy solder. Let's see how this goes. See it pulling the heat down pretty fast. Not too bad though. Consider it's on that big sheet of copper. Reheat's pretty good. It's not too bad. What I have here is the scrap circuit board that Bryman had supplied me. This is one of the early 780 prototypes. Again, this meter is non-functional. Let's just try to remove a few of the components off of this board. I'm sure the circuit board itself is lead-free. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's going to start pouring here in a second. Alright, let's try some of the SOT 23s. You can see the rain hitting the circuit board. Try this little diode here. No problem. This little resistor. No problem. Let's do another SOT 23. Nothing like being outside in the rain. Let's see, the deck here is starting to get pretty wet. You can hear the thunder in the background. Alright, so it looks like that works just fine. What we'll do next is try to solder up this board. Seems to hold the temperature pretty good. It's down to about 540, so we lost about 100 degrees. Heats up pretty quick. That's already up at 660. think that might be all of them. Yeah, I think that's it. Not too bad. Poor little Bryman meter's getting pretty wet. So is everything else. Well, I had brought out some components and was going to try to tack those down to that bare piece of board, but I think we're going to call it quits for this little experiment. Does look like it works just fine. Again, you can watch how fast this thing heats up. It's down to about 480 right there. I'll just add a little bit of pressure to the tank. And you can see the temps coming right up really fast. There's like 650 right there. I think that's gonna be it. Unfortunately, I'm using a different camera and I forgot to set the autofocus where it handled the macro. So unfortunately, it looks like a lot of that footage I just shot is a little on the fuzzy side. So sorry about that, but anyway, this is the board that we just soldered. Looks okay, I guess. Water's just dripping off of her. Again, this is not a functional meter. You can hear the thunder probably in the background. So I think what I'd like to do next is we can hook this thing up to the oscilloscope and let's just see if she works. We'll go ahead and install the battery. And we'll set this to a 10x probe. And we'll set the bandwidth to full. Same thing here, we'll go 10x, 1 meg DC coupling, linear. Alright, let's just try it on our second oscillator. Well, looks like we missed something. This is one of the downsides as you start to age. Start to lose your vision. Where I missed it, I cannot see this well enough without the microscope. It doesn't look like anything obvious. There's not a whole lot to these oscillators. Let me just have a look under the microscope real quick, see if we can find out what's wrong. See if this will show up on camera. Yeah, it's not going to work with this wire for the crystal not being soldered to the ground plane. What I'll have to do is take our other iron and I'll just heat this up real quick. So you can see I've just gone and soldered that other lead down, and let's see if it works now. There you go. Looks like it's working okay. So now we know it is possible to use a 100-year-old blowtorch to do modern surface mount soldering. Of course, we have to use kind of a space age soldering iron to do it, but it is certainly possible. I think that's going to be it for this video. Looks like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Camera being out of focus, missed a solder joint, and of course we got our rain. So hope to see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe. Later.